What if the real reason your erection has weakened after 50 has nothing to do with age itself, and everything to do with 3 specific pressure points in your body that almost no man knows how to activate? Let me ask you directly. Have you ever been in a moment where you wanted to perform, you wanted your penis to respond, but it simply refused to get hard? That sinking feeling of losing control, the frustration, the doubt that creeps into your mind, it can make any man question his masculinity. But here is the truth most men never hear. Your body is not broken. Your penis is not failing you. The problem is that blood flow is being blocked, and the signals that trigger an erection are not reaching the areas that matter. And that is exactly why these 3 pressure points can change everything. I am Dr. Emily Collins, a urologist who has spent years helping men over 50 restore confidence, sexual strength, and natural erections without pills or complicated procedures. And today, I want to show you something powerful. When you stimulate these 3 points correctly, you activate nerve pathways and microcirculation that send blood directly into the penile chambers. Not slowly, but instantly. These points work like switches. When you press them the right way, you release tension, improve vascular flow, and allow your penis to get hard naturally again. And the best part is that you can use them anytime your erection fails to show up, whether you are about to have sex, waking up without morning wood, or struggling with performance when you need it most. Think about it. Erections depend on blood flow, nerve response, and muscle relaxation. After 50, those systems slow down because circulation changes, stress levels rise, and pelvic tension builds quietly every day. You may not notice it, but your body is signaling that it needs support. These pressure points do exactly that. They act fast, they are safe, and they help your body do what it is naturally designed to do without forcing anything or relying on pills that stop working over time. What you are about to discover can make you feel in control again, because once you know where these points are and how to press them, you will never be caught off guard by a weak erection. Before we go deeper, I want to hear from you because your experience matters. Leave a comment sharing whether you have ever faced a moment when your penis simply did not respond. Hit the like button so this message reaches more men who need it, and check if you are already subscribed so you do not miss what comes next. Now that you understand why these pressure points matter, we can move into how they work and what they do inside your body, creating a foundation for the results you are about to experience. Understanding how these pressure points work starts with understanding what is happening inside the male body after 50, especially in the regions responsible for producing a strong erection. Many men assume the penis works independently, as if it were a simple mechanical part that either turns on or shuts off. But an erection is not isolated to the penis. It depends on a complex network of blood vessels, nerves, pelvic muscles, and hormonal signals that all have to communicate perfectly. When even one of these systems slows down, the erection becomes weaker, inconsistent, or disappears altogether, and this is where the pressure points begin to make sense. They sit in areas that directly influence these internal systems, almost like control hubs that can wake up pathways your body is struggling to activate on its own. Inside the pelvis, a dense web of nerves branches out from the lower spine and wraps around the groin, inner thighs, and perineum. These nerves are responsible for transmitting the signal that initiates sexual arousal and triggers increased blood flow to the penis. After 50, these nerves often become less responsive because of years of tension, reduced circulation, or even habits like prolonged sitting. The first pressure point you will learn later connects directly to this neural pathway, releasing the tightness that blocks the erotic signal from reaching the penis with full strength. When that signal becomes clear again, the body remembers what to do and blood begins moving more freely to the erectile tissue. Another essential structure involved in erections is the pelvic floor, a muscular foundation that supports your bladder, prostate, and penis. When these muscles are overworked, weak, or unbalanced, they create internal pressure that restricts blood flow. This often happens silently over the years, leaving you with an erection that rises slowly, loses firmness, or collapses too early. The second pressure point you will learn interacts with this muscular system, allowing it to relax just enough for circulation to pass through without resistance. This is not about stretching or exercising. It is about sending the right signal to the muscle fibers so they stop contracting against your natural sexual response. Finally, the bloodstream itself plays a defining role. Erections are essentially a hydraulic event. Blood enters the penis faster than it can leave, filling the chambers and creating firmness. But if the vessels leading into the penis are even slightly narrowed, the response becomes delayed or incomplete. After 50, inflammation, stress hormones, and daily habits can quietly reduce the openness of these vessels. The third pressure point influences the vascular branch that feeds the lower pelvic region. When stimulated correctly, it encourages those vessels to widen, letting blood surge into the penis in a way that feels immediate and natural. By mapping where these nerves, muscles, and vessels interact, you begin to understand why stimulating certain points can turn everything back on. These points are not magic. They are biological shortcuts that reactivate systems your body already has. When you know how to access them, you gain a sense of control that feels empowering, especially if you have been dealing with sudden inconsistency or the uncomfortable fear that your penis no longer responds the way it used to. And now that you understand the internal map behind your erection, you are ready to explore the first pressure point and how it influences the entire process when touched the right way. The first pressure point is the one most men overlook because it sits in a region that rarely receives intentional stimulation, yet it controls one of the most important signals involved in creating an instant erection. This point lies along the inner pelvic line, close to the pathway where the penile nerves branch out from the spine and travel toward the base of the penis. When this point becomes tense or compressed, the nerve signal that should activate your erection becomes delayed, weak, or scattered, which is why many men over 50 describe their arousal as slow to build or inconsistent. By stimulating this specific location, you are essentially reawakening the electrical communication that tells the penis to fill with blood quickly and firmly. To locate it, imagine sliding your hand along the lower abdomen, then moving slightly downward toward the crease where your pelvis meets the upper groin. This area often feels tight without you noticing because tension builds there from years of sitting, stress, or even subtle postural imbalances. When you press gently but firmly with 2 fingers, you may feel a combination of sensitivity and slight pressure, almost like touching a spot that has been ignored for too long. That reaction is normal. It means you are right on the neural pathway that influences erection strength. The goal is not to push hard. It is to stimulate just enough to signal the nerve fibers to open, allowing the communication line between your brain and penis to fire again. Hold the pressure for about 15 to 20 seconds, breathing normally, and you will begin to feel a subtle warmth spreading into the lower pelvic region. That warmth is blood flow responding to the release of tension. Some men notice tingling along the shaft or an early sense of fullness beginning to build, not because the point directly touches the penis, but because it triggers the cascade that allows the chambers to start filling. If you feel discomfort, reduce the pressure. The objective is activation, not pain. Many men report that even after a single session, their erection responds faster, as if the body remembers how to perform once the nerve pathway has been cleared. What makes this point so effective is that it directly influences the region responsible for the first phase of an erection, when the vessels begin to open and allow blood to rush forward. If this area remains blocked, no amount of arousal or desire can create the speed and intensity needed for a strong response. That is why you may feel mentally ready for sex but physically unable to reach full rigidity. This point acts like a switch that resets the communication. Stimulating it once can give immediate results, but when you repeat the technique over several days, the response becomes more consistent because the pelvic nerves adapt to the improved circulation and reduced tension. Another important detail is timing. This point works extremely well before sex, but it is also powerful when you feel your erection fading or struggling to stay firm. By pressing the area calmly, without rushing, you allow your body to shift back into its natural arousal mode. The key is not speed but precision. Overstimulating does not make the response stronger. Gentle, intentional pressure is what activates the neurological response that leads to natural hardness. And as your body becomes familiar with this sensation, you begin to sense exactly when and how to stimulate it to regain control quickly, making this point one of the most reliable tools for men who want immediate improvement in erection quality. The second pressure point works on a completely different mechanism from the first one, yet the two complement each other in a way that creates a powerful response when it comes to building a strong erection. While the first point restores the nerve signal that triggers arousal, this second point influences the muscular structure that supports the entire erectile process. It sits in the deeper layer of the pelvic floor, along the internal pathway that stabilizes the base of the penis and controls the rhythm of blood entering and staying inside the erectile chambers. When this point becomes tight, weak, or unbalanced, the erection may start but fails to gain full strength, or it rises quickly and then softens without warning. By stimulating the second point correctly, you can restore the support system that keeps the erection firm and resistant to collapse. To locate it, picture the area between the scrotum and the anus, a region known as the perineum. Most men never touch or examine this area, but it plays a fundamental role in sexual performance because it sits directly over the muscles that contract and pump blood into the penis during arousal. When you apply gentle, focused pressure to the central part of the perineum, you are influencing the internal tension of the pelvic muscles that assist in maintaining firmness. These muscles often accumulate stress over years of sitting, heavy lifting, poor posture, or even unconscious tightening during moments of anxiety. Pressing this point helps these fibers relax and reset so they can contract naturally and rhythmically, supporting stronger blood flow when you need it most. The technique is simple but requires precision. Use 2 or 3 fingers and apply a slow, steady pressure, without pushing too hard. You may feel an initial sensitivity or a warm spreading sensation that radiates toward the base of the penis. This reaction is part of the process, as the muscle fibers begin to release and the internal circulation improves. Hold the pressure for about 10 to 15 seconds, then release gradually. Some men notice that their penis begins to feel heavier or more responsive even before sexual stimulation begins, because this point helps reduce internal resistance and allows blood to move freely toward the erectile tissue. What makes this point particularly powerful is that it not only increases the volume of blood entering the penis but also helps control how long that blood stays trapped inside the chambers. When the pelvic floor is balanced and responsive, it supports the erection with a natural pumping motion, making it easier to achieve maximum rigidity. When it is tense or uncoordinated, the blood flow becomes unstable, creating weak erections or sudden loss of firmness during sex. Stimulating this point restores that stability, allowing the penis to maintain hardness without relying on sheer arousal or mental focus. Another important benefit is that this point interacts with the nerves connected to pleasurable sensations. When the area relaxes and circulation improves, sensitivity can increase, making arousal feel stronger and more natural. This does not mean overstimulation, but rather a renewed ability for the body to respond to touch, desire, and intimacy. For men over 50 who experience decreased sensitivity or slower sexual response, this can feel like a dramatic shift. And when this point is combined with the first one, the body begins to react with a level of consistency that many men thought they had lost permanently. By understanding how this second point influences muscle function and blood stability, you become prepared to integrate the third and final point, which acts as the final trigger for creating fast, powerful, and dependable erections. The third pressure point acts like the final command that brings everything together, creating the rapid surge of blood flow that produces a strong, full erection. While the first point reactivates the nerve signal and the second balances the pelvic muscles, this third point influences the vascular response, opening the pathway that allows blood to rush into the penis with speed and force. Many men notice that their erections start but fail to reach maximum firmness because the arteries feeding the lower pelvis are not opening wide enough. This point sits in a location that directly affects those vessels, making it one of the most effective tools for generating immediate improvement. To locate it, imagine placing your fingers along the inner thigh, just a few centimeters above the midpoint between your knee and groin. Slide your fingers inward until you feel the soft, sensitive area where the inner thigh meets the upper portion of the adductor muscles. This region houses a branch of the femoral artery and a cluster of nerve fibers responsible for regulating blood flow to the pelvic region. When this area becomes tight or congested, the arteries cannot expand properly, reducing the amount of blood available to fill the penile chambers. Pressing this point gently but intentionally helps relax the surrounding tissue and encourages the vessel to widen, creating the sudden feeling of warmth or heaviness that many men experience when an erection begins to build. The technique involves applying steady pressure with 2 fingers, pressing toward the inner thigh muscle rather than straight downward. Hold the pressure for about 15 seconds, then release slowly. You may notice a tingling sensation moving upward toward the groin, which is a sign that circulation is responding. This point can feel more sensitive than the others because it interacts with deeper tissues, but that sensitivity is exactly what makes it so effective. When stimulated correctly, it signals the vascular system to allow more blood into the pelvic region, setting the stage for a firm, reliable erection. One of the unique characteristics of this point is how quickly it can influence the physical response. Some men feel a noticeable change in a matter of seconds, particularly if their erectile difficulties are related to poor circulation or long periods of inactivity. For men who experience coldness, numbness, or slow warm-up in the pelvic area, this point can make a dramatic difference. It helps restore the natural hydraulic effect that erections rely on by reducing the internal resistance that prevents blood from traveling freely. Another advantage is that this point works well when used in sequence with the first 2. When the nerve signal has been restored and the pelvic floor has been balanced, opening the vascular pathway amplifies the effect. The blood flows more easily, the chambers fill more completely, and the erection becomes more stable. Many men report that after practicing this point consistently for a few days, they begin to feel spontaneous erections returning, even at moments when they were not expecting it. This happens because the tissues regain flexibility, responsiveness, and improve circulation, allowing the body to function more naturally. By mastering this third point, you unlock the final element in the process of achieving instant, dependable erections. It creates the physiological foundation that allows the penis to become firm, stay firm, and respond quickly when arousal begins. And once you combine it with the other 2 points, the body starts to work in harmony, giving you a level of control and confidence that many men believed was impossible after 50. Now that you understand how each point works individually, the real transformation happens when you combine all 3 in the correct sequence. When used together, they create a coordinated response that restores the natural chain of events behind a strong erection. Think of it as aligning 3 essential systems in your body: the nerve signal, the muscular support, and the vascular opening. When any one of these systems is out of sync, the erection becomes unreliable. But when all 3 operate in harmony, the penis responds with a level of firmness and consistency that often surprises men who have been struggling for years. This sequence is especially important after 50, when the body needs a more intentional activation to achieve the same level of performance it once delivered effortlessly. The ideal approach begins with the first point, the one that awakens the neural pathway. By starting there, you clear the communication line that allows your body to transition into arousal mode. Without this step, the other points may not work as efficiently because the brain and pelvic nerves are still operating in a restricted state. Once that signal is activated, move to the second point, the one located in the perineum. This prepares the pelvic muscles to support the erection without internal resistance. When these muscles are balanced and responsive, they help trap blood inside the penis, making it easier to achieve and maintain rigidity. The final step is to stimulate the third point along the inner thigh, allowing the vascular system to fully open. This creates the surge of blood flow that completes the process. Each point should be stimulated for 10 to 20 seconds, with slow, steady pressure and relaxed breathing. Rushing the sequence or pressing too hard does not create better results. What matters is precision and consistency. As you move through the steps, you may feel warmth spreading across the lower pelvis, a growing sense of fullness in the penis, or a subtle pulsing sensation. These responses are signs that the systems are connecting. For men with mild erectile difficulties, the sequence can produce noticeable firmness within minutes. For men with more persistent challenges, repeating the technique for several days can gradually retrain the pelvic region to respond more effectively. This sequence also adapts well to real-life situations. If you are preparing for sex, performing the technique in a calm, discreet moment can prime your body for a stronger response. If your erection begins to weaken unexpectedly, stimulating just 1 or 2 points can bring it back before the moment is lost. For men experiencing performance anxiety, the technique works as a grounding method, helping the body shift out of tension and into activation mode. And because it uses natural pathways rather than external stimulation or medication, it becomes more effective the more familiar your body becomes with the signals. Men with diabetes, high blood pressure, or mild cardiovascular issues often find this technique particularly useful because these conditions affect circulation and nerve sensitivity. By stimulating the points regularly, blood flow improves, tension decreases, and the pelvic nerves regain responsiveness. Men dealing with stress or anxiety-related erectile problems also benefit, because the sequence interrupts the internal patterns that block the erection from forming. Over time, the technique becomes second nature, giving you a sense of control that does not depend on pills or unpredictable timing. By combining the 3 points in this intentional sequence, you create a reliable method for producing stronger, faster erections at any age. The body begins to work more smoothly, the response becomes more predictable, and you start to experience the confidence that comes from knowing you can activate your erection naturally whenever you need it. Putting these 3 points into practice becomes even more powerful when you understand how to use them in real situations, moments when your erection needs support or when you want to feel confident before intimacy. Many men assume these techniques must be done in a structured, private routine, but in reality, they are simple enough to use at different moments throughout your day. For example, if you notice that your mornings have become less predictable and the natural morning erection does not appear as often as it used to, applying light pressure on the first point right after waking can help your body re-establish the neural connection that triggers spontaneous firmness. This small habit can gradually bring back a response that many men over 50 miss but deeply want to recover. Before sex, the sequence can be used as a warm-up that requires only a minute or 2. Stimulating the first point activates the nerve pathway, giving your body the signal that arousal is meant to progress. Following with the second point stabilizes the pelvic muscles so the blood you draw into the penis remains trapped effectively. Finishing with the third point prepares the vascular system for a rapid increase in circulation. Many men describe this preparation as a quiet moment that helps them feel in control, centered, and ready to perform without fear or hesitation. It works not because of a psychological trick, but because you are activating the exact systems your erection depends on. This method is also useful in those uncomfortable moments when your erection begins to weaken unexpectedly. Instead of panicking or forcing your mind to focus harder, pressing the second point or the third point can restore the physical response almost immediately. The body shifts back into balance, the blood flow improves, and the erection regains strength. This is especially important for men who experience performance fluctuations due to stress, fatigue, or inconsistent circulation. The technique becomes a way to take back control in a calm, discreet manner, preventing frustration and maintaining intimacy without interruption. Over time, these pressure points also teach your body to respond more naturally. The pelvic floor becomes less tense, the nerves regain sensitivity, and the vascular pathways become more flexible. This means that even outside of sexual moments, you may notice spontaneous erections returning, a stronger feeling of readiness, or a renewed sense of vitality. These improvements create a cycle of confidence that many men have not felt in years, often leading to better performance, healthier intimacy, and a more satisfying connection with their partner. If you have followed the sequence and understood how each point works in real life, then you have already taken an important step toward restoring your natural sexual strength. And if you made it all the way here, I want to invite you to stay connected. If this content helped you understand your body better, consider subscribing to the channel so you can continue learning methods that support your erection, your health, and your confidence. Leave a comment writing the phrase "I am with you" until the end so I know you reached this part of the video and felt the message connect with you. And if the video brought clarity or relief, a simple like helps this information reach other men who need it. There is another video here that continues and deepens this topic, so click and keep moving forward with me as you strengthen your body and restore what makes you feel alive.